Hi, welcome back to Tradish with Mary Ruck. We've got another great episode for you today, so let's get started. All right, today we're going to be talking about Thanksgiving, obviously because today's Thanksgiving, yay! I love Thanksgiving. I think it's a great time for families to get together and to really shuck off like the rest of the weight of the world and remind each other why everybody's so important and why we're so thankful to have the lives that we have and the stuff that we work so hard for. Whenever I think about this year, though, it's a little bit more special because my husband and I were able to move back to where I lived growing up, and we bought our home here. So this is our first Thanksgiving in our new home, and I'm hosting. I'm the big main chef this year. I'm very excited about it. But it got me thinking of why we celebrate Thanksgiving and why it's so important for us to be, kind of continuing these holidays. There is a big move on the left to kind of cancel these great American holidays. It started out as like a social justice thing. They want to come after them because they want to push their inclusivity and they want to try and paint colonizers as these evil people that only wanted to destroy native land, and everybody is raising their country on stolen land and all of those types of narratives. But what they forget in all of this is that, like with every single country, there was a battle for it. There was a battle to tame America, and we should be very proud of our ancestors and how hard they fought in order to start our country and to be able to be the, last bastion of freedom on earth. I mean, the United States is the greatest country that has ever come from man. And I don't understand this insistent need to denigrate it and make it be this like evil place that started with all of these evil ideas, when in reality it was men searching for freedom and for a place to be able to raise their families and have autonomy over themselves. And it's funny that in 2023 we're still fighting for those same ideals. So whenever we look back at the first Thanksgiving, there's some really great little notes to remember. Whenever you're growing up, you remember that, okay, it was all of these colonists. It happened around 1621, and they got together and met with the Wampanoag people, what is now like the Rhode Island area. And they met sometime between September and November, and they met for about 3 days. And the great thing about it is that it really does kind of mirror what we do today. Everyone says, oh, it's all about, green bean casserole and turkey and then Black Friday deals. But in reality, that's kind of what they were doing at the time. They were doing their feats of strength. They got together. It was mostly men because unfortunately the women had died throughout the winter. They had that really harsh first winter that killed a lot of the first settlers here. Anyway, so it was mostly men and then some children and teenagers. And so whenever they got together, what did they do? They did feats of strength. They ate meat and they practiced, military exercises, and they kind of showed off in front of one another for 3 days and got together. And it really spoke to what we were trying to build. It was going to be a nation of all people that were just in search of freedom. It's sad that, atrocities happen along the way, and all of those things have to be acknowledged, and it's important to talk about them, but talk about them in the way that we don't want them to happen again. Not talk about them in the way to make people, pay for those sins now, because no one walking on this earth created any of those scenarios. So I think that those are the things that start to get underneath my skin, because when you look at Thanksgiving now, it's like what we do. Me and my family, we get together, we bake our turkey, we put all of our stuffing out, we get all of the cornbread dressing ready, and afterwards, we get to have this really great fun time together. We put the football on, the kids are playing games. We normally have basketball tournaments set up, volleyball tournaments set up, and a lot of people like to pretend like it's this crazy different scenario and, we're having this different life now, but it's not. We're still celebrating in the way they celebrated in the beginning. And it's our country didn't even start this tradition until Abraham Lincoln started it around the Civil War. The idea was that we were going to get together as a nation and be thankful, no matter the strife. And, obviously it was a bloody and brutal Civil War, and men were able to get back together at the end of it. And I think that this Thanksgiving, when we talk about what we should be doing with our families and how we should be approaching it, I think that we should be approaching it with thanksgiving for our tradition and the men who came before us who were strong enough and smart enough to understand that if they did not fight for our nation and they did not live up to the ideals that they were, trying to create in the United States, that there wasn't going to be another place. There is no other place where people can go to. So if America is lost, the world is lost. And we have known that, we used to be taught that growing up. We used to be taught that it was so important to love your country and support it. I think along the way, we've lost that. I think a part of it was designed. Our academics and, our education system has been corrupted and captured by people that hate our country and that hate everything that we stand for. And they want to make those that grew up here hate it too. And that's why you see random people in your hometown posting about, Indigenous Peoples Day or wanting to celebrate the mass murder of, settlers or whatever it is. They want to highlight these instances that are just insanity because they've been taught to do that. They feel that it is inherently uncomfortable to love the country they grew up in. It's uncomfortable to love their heritage or their history because there were dark spots in it. But there's not a single civilization or culture alive on this earth that has not had some dark spot throughout their history. And I think the important part is that we teach the good and that we tell our stories in a way that make our children proud of our nation so that they continue the good ideals, so that they don't go back to race exceptionalism or, back to pitting two races against one another, that they really make an effort to bring our country's best ideals, the freedom for every man, the ability to, have autonomy over your family and decide your fate and grow a business or have a farm. All of those things are so important that they get lost. And the quicker we move on from that, the better it will be for our nation. And so this Thanksgiving, one of the things that my daughters and I have decided to do is create 2 humble pies. And one is obviously going to be an apple pie because there's nothing more American than apple pie. But my husband has asked for a special cherry pie this year. And I thought maybe it would be really great if we could find some American cherries. I know how ridiculous that sounds being in America, but you go into the grocery store and all of your produce seems to be coming from outside of the United States. But I think it's really important this Thanksgiving that we go and we buy American products and we make sure that we're supporting our American farmers and especially, try and finding somewhere who is selling turkeys whole. And we really need to get back to this idea that celebrating our nation and putting, America's ideals out there for the world to see how great they are is something that we've got to get back to. As I said earlier, this is our first Thanksgiving in our new home, and I'm so excited about it. But it got me thinking a lot about, our marriage and how far my husband and I have come in the last 12 years and how great it is to be at this point in our lives and at this point in our marriage and to be able to be in our new home and, be hosting Thanksgiving this year and being kind of like the people in charge. And it kind of got me laughing because our first Thanksgiving that I ever hosted was in our little 2-bedroom apartment. And we had some of his friends over and I cooked the turkey upside down. And I remember being just so embarrassed. I couldn't believe I had cooked this turkey upside down. And his friend, one of my husband's friends, came up to me and he was like, this was, the most flavorful turkey I've ever had in my life. But, it looked kind of weird. This is how I found out I cooked it upside down. He was like, but it looked, a little bit weird. Do you know what breed this turkey was? And I'm like, no, I just got it from the grocery store. I didn't really think about looking at the breed or whatever. And then he goes, oh, wait, hold on. And takes a closer look at the turkey, goes, oh, you cooked it upside down. So here I am, a new wife and a new mother, and I've cooked this turkey upside down and I'm just mortified. And I'm sitting here just thinking, okay, fine, I'm just going to go jump into the pool because this is brutal. I can't even handle the, embarrassment of all of this. But my husband comes up to me and he was like, this is going to make an amazing story, whenever we're 45 years old and, our kids are bringing their husbands home for the first time, and we're talking about it. And I just thought that, yes, you're right. Exactly. And all of the stress and the anxiety starting to build up inside me that, oh, this is my first Thanksgiving and I'd messed it all up, and all of these things just completely went away because of his kindness and his strength. And I don't even know, to be honest, if he understood at the time what I was feeling, or, the emotions kind of roaring up inside me. But inherently, he came over and he comforted me, and he was kind and he was strong, and he reminded me that this wasn't going to be the only Thanksgiving, that this wasn't going to be the only time I had to make this turkey and create these traditions and do all this stuff. And if I'm being honest, it wasn't the last time I cooked a bird upside down. I actually cooked a Christmas goose upside down as well. So I need a little bit of help with that, apparently. But the point of that is that husbands should play that role. And our society has done a really terrible job explaining to men what type of partner they're supposed to be for their wives. You have two forms of thought. You've got that red pill thought that is very anti-woman. So you need a man that's essentially going to ignore any emotional or physical needs that his wife might need, and instead it should be focused all on the man. And the man is the only thing that anyone should focus on, and his emotional and physical needs are the most important in the home. And that, of course, is not true. It's a balancing act, right? When a wife sees that her husband needs help, and a husband sees the wife needs help, they're supposed to equally reach out for one another. It's not a one or another situation. And then you have the other form of thought where it's like you should just completely ignore men altogether, that their opinion on things don't matter, that it should be only what the wife thinks. She takes care of everything, so her opinion is number one above all else. We can't survive if this is the narrative that we're telling men and women as we're trying to couple them and get them together. The reality is that just the same as when I'm in my kitchen and I was feeling anxious and upset, his job is to come in and comfort me in those scenarios. And the comfort that he receives whenever he's feeling stressed or upset and all of those things, it's different. So he will need something that's going to make him feel stronger, make him feel like he can go out and slay the dragon and conquer the world and do all of those things. Whereas women need to be loved and comforted and held and said, no, it's all going to be okay because we've got X, Y, and Z going on. The care that one another give each other is not the same as, these red pill and feminist movements. You don't have to hate one another. You don't have to say, okay, because I'm his wife, then I demand to have this, this, and this, and this, and I don't really care how that upsets him. Well, let's put it on the other foot, lady. Would you really like that if your husband treated you that way? Like, no woman wants to be, it's that really funny video where it's like, lead me when I want to be led, like I'm feeling wanting to be led, or, whatever. It's that Instagram video that's going around. It's really hilarious. The point of that is that women have grown so accustomed to living in this masculine role that feminists created for our generation that it's sometimes hard to break out of the leadership. And when we talk about submitting to our husbands, we're not talking about making sure that we're their servant or slave, and emotionally or physically or sexually or whatever it is none of those things are real. What you're trying to do when you submit to your husband is allow him to protect you. You're submitting our need to have protection and taking that protection in our own care and making sure that we are the ones doing it and submitting that to our husbands. And this is not just physically, but spiritually and emotionally. You feel so much love when you know that your heart is protected by him. And you feel spiritually protected when you know your husband is praying for you. And you feel physically protected whenever you are out and you understand that your husband is looking for dangers and is going to sit there and make sure that they aren't coming after you or his family. And when you have a husband who is working towards that goal and you don't respect it, of course he's going to pull back. You're going to get less of that. And so it's incumbent on women to recognize when their husbands are getting depleted just the same way as they need to recognize us and go and help them. There was this red pill video, and I'm pretty sure Pearl was a part of it, and they're talking about how you can't have any, it was definitely Pearl Davis with Pearly Things. And she was talking about how you can't really discuss whether or not a woman has a accidental pregnancy, because there's like so many different ways of birth control, and a woman can only get pregnant like 3 days a month. And so there's absolutely no way for a woman to accidentally get pregnant. This is the most absurd claim of my life. But it's claims like this that, create the narrative that all these men are falling for, that women are inherently selfish gold diggers, that they will create these scenarios in which to trap men. Like, yes, of course, there are women in history and throughout history, and will continue to happen, where they take their sex and they use it to trap men into marriages or relationships, but that never ends well. But there are absolutely accidental pregnancies, and the people that do not understand anything about marriage or relationships should not be given the keys to all of these young men's minds. Like, if you find out that your son is listening to someone like that, you should really be counteracting that narrative, because that's not how marriages are. Women are not searching for you to trap you. They want to get married and they want love. Desperate women will do that, yes, but that's not the majority of women. The majority of women are normal and kind, and they are looking for normal and kind men. And the quicker we can get back to telling our children or teaching our children how to look for that and how to be that type of example, easier our society will find love and happiness, and the chaos and the strife will calm down. I truly believe a lot of the issues that we have in our society right now stem from broken homes and broken marriages. And if we could just remember that it's not a battle of the sexes, that it's not one against the other, that we're together as a team, I think it would go a long way to healing the divide that we have. Okay, it's another rendition of It's All Trans to Me.
Excuse me, it's ma'am. It is ma'am.
Okay, so today we're going to be talking about crazy reporting coming from Daily Caller reporter Sarah Wilder. Used to be Weaver, but she's now married. Congratulations, Sarah. She had this exclusive last week called Disney's latest DEI move is to give pronoun pins to Epcot janitors. I mean, because of all the things that are happening, of course, Disney is deciding to side with the, LGBTQ lobby again. It says employees at Epcot theme park at Walt Disney World can now fill out a form with their preferred pronouns to have them added to their name pin by scanning a QR code, according to pictures taken November 5th that were provided to the Daily Caller. The initiative is still voluntary, according to the employees, and is currently being rolled out to all janitorial positions. Hi, everyone. We're excited to introduce pronoun name tags in our area, the form reads. Pronoun name tags help us understand each other more and bring a positive impact within our community. Can we please just stop, Disney? Please? Please? Like, don't our kids deserve happy, fun movies? Like, don't our kids deserve to be able to go to the park without being bombarded by leftist ideology? Can they please just be kids? We took our kids to Disney a couple years ago, and it was right when all of the major craziness happened, and we debated whether or not we should cancel our tickets. Of course, Disney makes it super difficult for you to do that. We decided, you know what? This is a once-in-a-lifetime thing, and if we go now, maybe we can avoid all of the craziness that's happening. It was kind of our thought. First day was great. Second day was terrible. Like, we go and it just felt like every crazy left-wing ideology was on display, whether it was girls wearing absolutely zero clothing, boys in girls' clothing, boys with makeup on, park employees with makeup on. There were even like trans parties there, in the sense that there were like large groups of people that were clearly supporting transgender ideology. There was even like a man there with these two younger men. I mean, it was everything that you feared was going to happen when you went to the park. And it really helped solidify. Sometimes I feel like I can be like a lone crusader. It really helped solidify for my husband on why we fight against this kind of stuff. I mean, you just want to go to the park with your kids. The day before was so lovely. Like, we have got to ride on all these rides. The look on our children's faces on day one made everything worth it at the beginning. Like, you really do. You walk onto the park and you think, this is going to be the most amazing experience. Our kids' eyes were wide. All of them were young enough to be able to enjoy the magic, but but old enough to be able to, you know, kind of handle all the walking and all the long excursions. And we were there all day long. It was a great experience. And so when we woke up day 2, excited to go back, it felt like such a letdown to walk into the new park and just feel like it almost felt like a dirty cloud had just settled right down on the park. And the ride seemed to have taken longer. Everyone seemed angrier. I don't know why Disney doesn't understand that that's not why we pay. Like, we don't pay to go to the movies. We do not pay to go to the parks in order to be indoctrinated or have our kids captured by these political talking points. What we would really like to do is to be able to take our kids to go enjoy Snow White, to be able to take our kids to be able to hop on a ride about, you know, Monsters, Inc. without hearing some climate change spiel. All of these insane ideas that have just come out, you know, of the last 10, 20 years are damaging the Disney brand. And for whatever reason, they're going face first into it. I mean, they're putting pronouns pins. You can literally be a janitor at Disney and put a pronoun pin on, but would you be able to be a janitor at Disney and be openly Catholic? Would you be able to wear your crucifix out of your uniform to be able to prove to people that you were Christian? I don't think so. I don't think that these two things can even be remotely, you know, connected together. But here's Disney apparently ready to continue to downgrade their brand because they have literally no idea what else to do. The second thing we're going to be talking about are male athletes in women's sports. So there has been a lot of movement on this over the last several months to try and protect female sports against the entrance of male athletes. This is a very serious issue, especially for someone like me who has 4 daughters. I want to make sure that my children have that equal opportunity to showcase their sport and have fun time in athletics and not have to worry about whether or not her teammate or the person that she's playing against is a male. The most recent story about this is the California Interscholastic Federation allows males in their competitions. And recently, a male runner, Athena Ryan, who goes to Sonoma Academy in Santa Rosa, California, finished first in a field of 55 girls at the Coastal Mountain Conference Championships in Santa Rosa. First in 55. Are we shocked about that? No, because male bodies are different than ours, and they are always going to be able to outcompete us and outperform us. We do not have the same ability. Now, there are exceptions to this rule. Of course, there are male athletes that lose in competitions to female athletes, and there are, freak exceptions in which women are stronger than men and all of those types of things, but that's not reality. For the average male and the average female, it is not even close to being the same biological advantage or availability. Men have that advantage over us, and it's insane that we even have to continue this. The biggest losers in this argument are young women. And in a society who places women above almost all else, you would think that they would want to fight for these girls, but they're not. According to athletic.net, freshman Josie Hill was cheated out of her conference title by Athena Ryan because he was allowed to compete in the group, and she would have been first place if it hadn't been for his ability to compete. We cannot keep stripping our girls of their future and trying to sell it to them or package it to them as this like inclusive, wonderful thing. These athletes should have their own category if we're going to give them one, but at no point should they be taking from biological females. It's painful to watch, and we have to be doing everything we can to fight against it. Okay, so for the last topic we're going to talk about with It's All Trans to Me, we're going to go over to England, and we're going to look at this man named Sophie. He calls into his bank, and he's trying to get help because he had fraud on his card, and he doesn't really know what to do with it. And then he realizes that they're not going to be able to help him because the name on his account is a female name and his voice is very masculine. And this is where that kind of trans ideology falls apart. A lot of people are okay with him having his mental illness, okay with him being confused as to whether or not he's a male or a female. But you cannot require other people to carry your mental illness with you. They shouldn't be as as anxious as you. They shouldn't be as depressed as you. And so they surely shouldn't have to sit there and carry the weight of your gender ideology with them. And this is exactly what he's asking them to do when they can't help him. He is standing out in front of his bank and he says, oh, I'm going to go in there. I'm actually a hate crime ambassador for the Sussex police. And when I called them to complain about, them not being able to help me because my voice sounds so masculine, they told me that I have to report it as a non-hate crime, related incident. Because this isn't a hate crime, but this is what they want. They want to put you in jail because you've called them sir instead of man when he doesn't look anything like a man. So he goes in and he ends up getting a new card, and he claims that they ended up calling him sir twice during the meeting, even once whenever he was asking about, why, he has miss on his account and why they were giving him a hard time about him coming in or whatever, and he was called sir in it. And I want to know one thing. If you are going to go out and you are going to be very obviously male and then put on a dress and makeup and try and present yourself as female, why are you then going to get upset when people get confused? Why is that a thing? Why are we recording ourselves at lunch and making it seem like every waiter in the entire world is a bigot because they've called you sir when you very much look like a sir? It's like we don't have true gender roles anymore. Men aren't walking around in slacks and a suit, and women aren't walking around in beautiful dresses. So when a man walks around in a dress, there's absolutely no way to tell that he's actually trying to identify as a woman and not just a man in a dress. This is where our society is now. It's like just so insane. We have to put a stop to it. Jennifer Newsom posted this picture of her husband, California Governor Gavin Newsom, and Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. And, it's them together. And she's like, oh, it's so great to be able to talk parenting and politics and everything in between these two great dads who are just wanting to make the world a better place. And, their policies are obviously in line. They run really heavily with the same thought processes and the same policies of the Democratic Party. And Gavin Newsom is obviously going to be a component of the Democratic Party going forward, whether or not they replace Biden on the 2024 ticket with him or he comes out in 2028. They are clearly prepping him to be on the main stage. They've got Xi Jinping from China coming over to California just this past week, and then now he's meeting with Trudeau. You have to think about, what are they actually doing for families? What are these Democratic policies doing for families? I mean, you look at California, they locked children out of schools for almost 2 years. They have high rates of, illiteracy, high rates of kids dropping out. This isn't like this great place where children are thriving. They're being captured by gender ideology. They created this safe haven where kids can run to get physically and emotionally mutilated by doctors in order to be able to live up to this trans, their new trans identity. And, they're stripping parental rights away. And you look at the whole of the Democratic Party and you go, what are they doing for families? I mean, just this Thanksgiving. Doesn't it feel like this is the most expensive Thanksgiving that you've ever had? It's probably true. EJ and Tony talked to the Daily Caller News Foundation and said that if it feels like it's expensive, it's because it is. After 2.5 years of abnormally high price increases, Americans are left with the most expensive Thanksgiving ever. As the White House's mouthpieces like to say, that's Bidenomics in action. Today's higher prices are the direct result of federal government spending, borrowing, and printing trillions of dollars, all urged on by the Biden administration and made possible by their big spender allies in Congress from both parties and complicit Federal Reserve. And he's not wrong. The Daily Caller went over the numbers and found that the price of turkey is up 31%. The price of bread is up 26%. The price of desserts, almost 32%. Sauces and gravies, almost 15%. Potatoes, 14.6%. And green beans, 9%. We're talking about the most traditional of American meals. Everywhere around the world celebrates Christmas, but Thanksgiving is something that North America gets to experience just in its own. And to have its meal be so simple, we're talking about protein and casseroles. And to have this be the most expensive in history is alarming. And, you know, you look at these Democrats that are kind of coming on the scene after Biden, and you're thinking, is it going to be any better? Like, are these guys really going to come in and help the middle class and help the lower class? No, their policies are exactly the same. It's why when you go to California, gas is so much more expensive. Just getting your normal everyday products are more expensive because these Democrat-controlled areas are never going to be run with the American family in mind. They have too many donors. They have too many special interest groups. They have too many ideologies that they have to bow down to and adhere to, that the American family is just going to be left by the wayside. And so, yeah, it should be really terrifying that Jennifer Newsom is standing next to her husband in Trudeau and is claiming that, you know, this is like the wholeheartedly committed crew of dads that are just trying to save the world. She says, the cooperation between California and Canada is strong, and I'm grateful we have such a trusted ally and partner and our friends to the north. Yes, it's great that Canada is a trusted ally and partner, but it's not whenever you realize that their ally and partnership is coming with, you know, far left progressive ideologies. We cannot continue to stomach the financial burden that these Democratic policies put on us or the emotional burden they put on our children. And it's incumbent upon us as parents to stop it, to tell them it's over. We're no longer going to accept this. And the funny thing is that in the comment section of her tweet, this guy said he has a PhD. His name is Haman David Hamati. And he says, Jen, you and your husband destroyed many kids' lives by locking them out of schools for 1.5 years, masking them, terrorizing them about a virus that never put them at risk while your own kids had no disruptions. Your husband and Trudeau, who are cut from this very same cloth, used the pandemic to cover, to censor, exclude, and destroy critics while claiming to be for freedom. They both forced medical treatments into millions, including many statistically zero risk, or simply were willing to take that risk while claiming to be in favor of bodily autonomy. You know, my body, my choice. They're definitely pro-abortion, but, you know, not always. So he says, it's fitting that you stand between these two men as their mirror images of one another, each yearning for attention and eager to please their ideological masters. You can attempt to rewrite history for both California and Canada, but the people are very aware of what happened and what continues to occur. You choose to be a part of it, or you can run far and fast. If you choose the latter, you'll have many friends. Because the people of America do not want to be trampled on anymore. We want our freedom, we want our turkey, and we want our football, and we do not want to be preached to about far-left ideologies that make no sense in our American way of life. All right, I hope y'all enjoyed today's episode. All the show's notes can be found below. I'd love to hear from y'all, so please leave a comment while you're there. Make sure you subscribe to the show wherever you find us and check out my daily column at thedailycaller.com. Don't forget to join us next week for another exciting episode of Tradish with Mary Rook. You can find me on Twitter at MaryRook_. That's at MaryRooke_. See y'all next week.